Our reading this morning is from Liberating Love by Reverend Frederick Muir. In Love at the Center, Unitarian Universalist Theologies, edited by Sophia Betancourt. In 1936, the American Unitarian Association, AUA, newly established Commission of Appraisal, issued its first report. It's a hefty book, 350 pages. Unitarians faced a new age in the report's first section, Introduction, Rethinking Unitarianism. They set the tone of their findings with a strong, frame-bending warning. The genius of the Unitarian movement has been its power to adapt the vocabulary and practices of religion whose roots are sunk deep into the past, to the new knowledge, new traditions, and new situations. If this genius should fail us now, the time we have come to write fini to the story of Unitarianism. While the Commission's bold and sobering words are appropriate for any discussion about the future of Unitarian Universalism, in 1936 they were unaware of, oblivious to, ignoring, didn't care about, or maybe agreed with the several ways that their leaders and ancestors leveraged their faith to support imperialism in its hegemonic directions. The 1936 Commission reported 6 values which Unitarians agreed. The value of love was not named, and the absence of a theology of love or even language of love is conspicuous. Perhaps the AUA's commitment to Enlightenment principles and values left no room for naming the centrality of love. Now it feels an important task. Might the absence of love, especially as hope and hospitality, have been a contributing factor shaping the Commission's deep concern regarding the future of our religion? It is time now to pay close attention to this absence, but to correct it. I invite Reverend Charlotte to return to the podium for her sermon, entitled, Imagining the Future of Our Faith.
At the end of this month is a big anniversary in the life of our faith tradition. You may or may not have already picked up on this, depending on how much of a Unitarian Universalist denominational or governance geek you are. Perhaps you know because you're planning to attend the UUA's General Assembly a month from now. Yay! In Baltimore, not far from home. Or maybe you've already delved into the UU World Edition, which I pilfered from your stack there, which is focused on the 200th anniversary of the American Unitarian Association, or AUA for short. On May 25th in 1825, there was, at the Berry Street Conference, a proposal regarding the benefits of and the need for some sort of organizational structure for American Unitarian churches. Imagine, they had no structure before that. The next day, May 26th, the AUA was officially formed with the approval of bylaws. We know how we love bylaws, right? Coincidentally, the British and Foreign Unitarian Association was also formed on May 25th in 1825. This morning we honor our Unitarian lineage and the paths along which we trod. In particular, we take time to honor these first official acts of claiming the name Unitarian, which up until that time had been used primarily as a pejorative term. Believe it or not, it was a bold step, not unlike the modern examples of marginalized groups 2 centuries later who proudly reclaim identity labels such as Black, queer, transgender, and so on. Some of us here this morning know how empowering self-naming our identity or identities is to those who are members of marginalized communities. And Unitarians were that. And let me interrupt myself just briefly with an editorial aside. While I intend to guide you on a journey touching upon our Unitarian history in this sermon, I really want to encourage all of us to read through this spring-summer 2025 edition of the UU World magazine, either online or, as you have here, in print, to learn more than I can cover with you this morning. I'm aware that I have chosen to focus on different aspects of our Unitarian history than others of my colleagues who are preaching about this either today or next Sunday. The creation of the American Unitarian Association, the AUA, as an official institution was an empowering event similar to identity labeling. In the beginning, the AUA was a member organization for individuals. Congregations didn't become members of the AUA until more than 6 decades later, in 1884, when the hero of this morning's wisdom story, Reverend Jenkins Lloyd Jones, was blazing trails in America's heartland for the Western Unitarian Conference. Bear in mind, though, that the Unitarians were never as evangelical about their faith as the Universalists, who put a great deal of energy into evangelizing by horseback and itinerant preachers, not unlike those Methodists that you hear about circuit riding. Jenkins Lloyd Jones was neither the first nor the most recent innovator within our faith tradition. He was not the first pacifist in our midst, nor the first to value the wisdom teachings of the world's myriad religious and philosophical traditions. Jenk and Susan, though clearly paving a path for gender equality, were also not the first to live in a marriage of mutual care and beliefs, or espouse the rights of women and work for the abolition of slavery. Before Lloyd Jones was born in 1843, and not long after the AUA was founded in 1825, there developed among the Unitarians in Boston a movement that was very different from the status quo. It was the Transcendentalist movement, with which we most often associate Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, among others. You'll probably be surprised to hear from me that Ralph Waldo Emerson lifted many of his supposedly innovative ideas directly out of his Aunt Mary Moody Emerson's almanacs, her personal journals, in which she recorded her thoughts. Randall Fuller writes about this Boston area bright circle in a book about the lives of 5 remarkable women in the age of Transcendentalism. The women were the aforementioned Mary Moody Emerson, plus Elizabeth Palmer Peabody, along with her sisters Sophia Peabody, an artist who was married to Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Lydia Jackson Emerson, married to Ralph Waldo's brother, as well as the early feminist thinker, Margaret Fuller, who held her conversations in Elizabeth Peabody's Boston bookstore. This conversation society was for women only, and they sought to answer the great questions of special importance to women, including, what are we born to do? How shall we do it? In an early February Faith and Leadership article entitled It's time to reclaim creativity. Pastor Chris Aho, director of the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship Thriving Congregations Initiative, writes, things change, styles change, sensibilities change, manners change, language changes. It feels as if everything is changing and there's no going back. He continues, I think the primary task of navigating change is to keep learning. Aho reflects on his career journey in terms of changes in language. He remembers using the word creative all the time. However, it seems to have fallen out of favor. Our own Reverend Leah Ongiri would probably wholeheartedly agree, saying, without imagination, how will we know where we are going? In fact, the March 2025 edition of Quest, a publication of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, is thematically focused on imagination. The early Transcendentalists, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, leaning heavily upon his Aunt Mary's writings, have encouraged us to employ imagination in our search for truth and meaning. Mary Emerson defended imagination and asserted her belief that religious insights were unreachable by reason and logic alone. In doing so, she was, of course, assailing the foundations of Unitarian thought. Imagination was a faculty that proceeded not by an almost endless chain of reasonings, but by intuitive leaps, flashes of perception, epiphanies, and revelations. Most important, this superior form of knowledge was a feminine ability. The we in her statement referred to women unschooled in philosophy, but gifted with insight. As Reverend Frederick Muir says, our Transcendentalist ancestors bequeathed us theological imagination. The idea that the future's promise is always aspirational is foundational to hope. I agree with Mary Emerson, Pastor Aho, Reverend Ongiri, and the March Quest editors and contributors that imagination is a powerful spiritual tool. CLF, Church of the Larger Fellowship, Learning Fellow, Catherine Hoffman writes, all the goal-setting gurus tell us to envision our futures and act as if it is already true. In other words, to use our imaginations to create reality. I believe that our spiritual reality is drawn from imagination as well. In my experience, this is the purpose of a vision quest, a traditional tool of indigenous communities and New Age spiritual practitioners alike. Recently, I had the privilege to attend the Spark Theological Convocation held at the UU congregation in Fairfax, Virginia. Don't think I saw any of you there, but Reverend Kimberly was there. During the 3 days, those gathered discussed our history, the new Article 2 language of UU values and covenant adopted at last year's General Assembly, and what might our UU theologies be when we center love. We strive to use our imaginations and be creative. In the book, Love at the Center, which we've heard 2 readings out of today already, Mary Catherine Mourn, a convocation attendee, wrote, imagine love as a fierce force imagine love, well, it's fierce too, but imagine love as a force that frees us, each and all. To the fullness of our humanity, imagine that love centered at like distance from every point on a circle. Imagine the community care that holds the tension of the circumference and the radius. Or as Reverend Jason Leiden put it in his essay in the same volume, radical love is creative, visionary, and relational. Beyond such a conference setting, religious professionals and congregational members alike are asking, what does it mean to live out these values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity? JetPig. As much as I resisted it initially, really it is a useful mnemonic device. Just one example of this theological questing is our Congregational Study Action Issue Process. That's CSAI in acronym language, which is returning to our work this year during and between General Assemblies. I found the online discussion session for the CSAI entitled Abolition is Faith Formation especially powerful in the sense that it will engage us in deep theological questions and acts of relational justice. The presenters stated that we have to imagine it to make it happen. We have to imagine the future of our faith to make it happen. We have to imagine the future of our country to make it happen.